Go to any coffee shop, any mall, any airport, any gym lobby, and watch the one thing that used to be normal. A man sees a woman he finds attractive, and he does nothing. No smile, no hi, no small talk, not even eye contact. And if you think that's because men got weak, or lazy, or scared, you're missing the real story. Because men didn't stop approaching, they adapted. And once you see why, you can't unsee it. Today I'm going to break down why so many men avoid approaching women in public now. Even men who are confident, even men who can talk to strangers, even men with good social skills. This isn't a men versus women rant. It's not a hate video. It's not an excuse for bad behavior. It's a reality check about incentives, social risk, technology, and how public dating has become a high-stakes game. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the old advice, just be confident, just say hi, just shoot your shot, doesn't land the way it used to. Before we start, if you've ever felt confused watching modern dating play out, hit like, subscribe, and comment your experience. Respectfully, I read these. Let's get into it. Here's a test that doesn't require a podcast, a study, or a spreadsheet. Go to a public place where people could interact, a bookstore, a cafe, a grocery store, a street market, a college campus. Now watch. How many men initiate conversation with women they don't already know? How many men even hold eye contact for longer than a second? How many men give that small, hey, smile that used to be a universal social signal? For most places, the number is basically zero. And this isn't because men forgot how to speak. It's because something fundamental changed. The downside of trying got bigger, and the upside got smaller. A lot of people still talk about approaching like it's 1995. You say hello, she says no thank you. You smile, you move on. Life continues. But today, many men experience the situation differently. Not as a normal social interaction, as a threat assessment. And whether that threat is real or not in every case doesn't matter as much as one thing. People change behavior based on what they believe the risk is. When a guy considers walking up and starting a conversation, he's not just thinking, do I have the confidence? He's thinking, what if she reacts badly? What if I get embarrassed publicly? What if someone films this? What if it gets posted? What if it gets interpreted in the worst possible way? What if my workplace finds it? What if this follows me? You might hear that and think, that's paranoid. But here's the catch. In 2025, paranoia isn't always irrational. Because attention is currency. Outrage is currency. Clips go viral. Context gets chopped. And once something is online, you don't control the narrative anymore. So men don't feel like they're choosing between approach versus don't approach. They feel like they're choosing between a small chance at connection versus a small chance at a social disaster. And the bigger culture gets, the more strangers have cameras, the more HR-driven many workplaces become, the more public everything feels, the more people start living like they're always on stage. Let's be honest, rejection has always been part of dating. Most emotionally healthy men can handle no thanks. What's harder to handle is contempt. The facial expression, the loudness, the performance. Not every woman does this, obviously. Plenty are kind, plenty are normal. But enough people have seen harsh public rejections that it affects the whole environment. Because it teaches a lesson. Even if you do everything right, you might still be treated like you did something wrong. And in public spaces, social rules have shifted toward default suspicion. Sometimes that suspicion is understandable. Women navigate real safety concerns. But the side effect is that it can make ordinary interactions feel loaded. So many men take the safest route. They become invisible on purpose. No eye contact, no opening line, no risk. And if you're a woman who says, men don't approach anymore, this is one major reason. Not because men don't want connection, because they don't want humiliation. Now let's talk about the modern factor that didn't exist for your parents or grandparents, the phone. Today, almost any moment can become content, and the problem is not being held accountable. Accountability for truly disrespectful behavior is good. The problem is that context collapses online. A 30-second clip can remove tone, remove body language, remove what happened before, remove what happened after. A normal, awkward human interaction can be edited into a villain story. And the fear isn't just getting roasted, it's that your name, your face, your job, your location can get pulled into it. Even if you did nothing illegal, even if you weren't threatening, even if you accepted no immediately. So men look at approaching and think, is this worth gambling my reputation? And again, this doesn't mean every approach ends badly. It means the possibility is in the air and it changes behavior. Here's a painful truth that people avoid because it sounds shallow, but it shapes real outcomes. Attractiveness changes how behavior is interpreted. The exact same words can land as confident from one person, intrusive from another. The same joke can be charming or annoying. The same compliment can be sweet or creepy. Why? Because humans don't judge behavior in a vacuum. We judge behavior through emotion, through first impressions, through interest. And that goes both ways. Men do it too. But in the context of approaching, it creates an unstable system. Men don't know how they'll be perceived until they try. And perception is the whole game. So when people say, just be respectful, men hear, you might still be labelled disrespectful if you're unwanted. That uncertainty is a huge part of why many men opt out. Not because they can't talk, because they can't predict the verdict. Let's talk about the math. Not with internet gotcha numbers, but with a general reality. Most cold approaches don't lead to dates. That's always been true. The difference is, today many men feel like the effort required has increased, while the reward got less reliable. Think about it. Even if you get a number, you might get no reply, one reply, then silence, I'm busy, forever, a date that goes nowhere, ghosting. Now, ghosting isn't a crime. Nobody owes you a relationship, but it changes the perceived value of putting yourself out there. Men start to feel like the typical outcome is high effort, low return, plus emotional wear, plus risk of public shame. So they ask a simple question. Why am I doing this? And if they don't have a strong answer, they stop. This is what I call approach fatigue. Not bitterness, not hatred, fatigue. It's the psychological cost of repeated, low-probability social gambling. You've heard the advice. Be confident, take initiative. Masculinity means approaching. But there's a contradiction in modern messaging. Men are told, approach, lead, initiate, and also told, unwanted attention is harassment. If you make someone uncomfortable, you did something wrong. So men ask the logical question, how do I know it's wanted before I do it? You can't, not with certainty. There's no universal green light. There are only signals, and signals can be misread. Again, women have legitimate safety concerns, but men have legitimate reputational concerns, and when both realities exist at the same time, many men choose the option that minimizes downside. They don't approach at all. Not because they're broken, because they're optimizing for safety, social safety. Now we have to talk about another modern shift. Work and personal life are no longer cleanly separated. In many industries, your behavior outside work can still affect your job, especially if it becomes public. And workplace policies are often written broadly, sometimes intentionally broad, which means a man might think, even if I'm respectful, if this gets misunderstood, do I want to deal with HR? So a lot of men adopt a strict rule. Don't date co-workers, don't flirt at company events, don't compliment appearance in professional settings, don't risk ambiguity. Is that cold? Maybe, but it's consistent. We've built systems that prioritize risk reduction and liability control, so people reduce risk. This is not a mystery, it's cause and effect. Now here's where modern dating takes a hard turn. When men backed away from approaching in public, many moved to dating apps because apps promised mutual interest first, private interaction, less public rejection, clear consent to talk. And in theory, that sounds great. But in practice, dating apps created a market where attention becomes hyper-competitive, choices feel endless, people become thumbnails, algorithms reward the most photogenic profiles, and many users behave more disposable. For many average men, apps feel like shouting into a void, and for many women, apps feel like sorting through a flood. Both sides are exhausted, just in different ways. And when dating becomes industrial, people become interchangeable. A real person in front of you becomes one option instead of a moment. So even when someone is technically available, their attention is fragmented. Social media added another layer that quietly rewired dating. Validation became constant. If someone is even moderately attractive and posts regularly, they can get likes, compliments, DMs, followers, attention loops. This doesn't mean they're bad, it means they're human, and humans adapt to the environment they're in. If attention is abundant, any single interaction feels less valuable. So an in-person approach has to compete with a phone full of messages, the dopamine of scrolling, the sense that there might be someone better one swipe away. This creates what psychologists often call the paradox of choice. When options feel infinite, commitment feels risky. Settling feels like loss, even when it's not. And that makes dating colder, slower, and less forgiving. Now we have to touch the most sensitive topic in dating: standards. Everybody is allowed to have preferences. No one is obligated to date anyone. But markets still exist, whether we like the word or not. If a large number of people aim for the same small group of top partners, the competition goes up. And when competition goes up, rejection increases, ghosting increases, situationships increase. People feel replaceable. Here's the part people avoid. A lot of people, men and women, have standards shaped by highlight reels. The best photos, the best vacations, the best bodies, the best status signals. So many people aren't comparing a potential partner to real-life peers, they're comparing them to an algorithm-fed fantasy. That doesn't make anyone evil, but it does make the dating experience feel like a constant audition. And when men feel like the default outcome is, "you're not enough," they stop volunteering for the role. Something interesting happens with a lot of men. They don't protest. They don't argue. They don't debate. They just quietly withdraw. They pour into work, gym, hobbies, solo travel, gaming, entrepreneurship, small friend circles, peaceful routines. Not because they hate women, because many men are wired to solve problems. And when they conclude, "this system isn't solvable for me right now," they redirect. You might call that giving up. They call it conserving energy. And the cultural mismatch is this. One side says, "Where did all the good men go?" The other side says, "We were here. We got tired." Here's the honest middle. Dating feels unsafe for women physically sometimes. Dating feels unsafe for men socially sometimes. Different risks, different fears, same outcome: avoidance. Women avoid strange men because safety matters. Men avoid approaching because reputation matters. Both are rational within their experience. And when both sides move into avoidance, the culture loses something. Spontaneity, warmth, community, the simple friendliness that used to lead to relationships. We didn't just lose dating, we lost everyday social trust. If we want people to approach again, if we want in-person dating to recover, then the incentives have to shift. Not through shaming men into approaching, not through shaming women into saying yes, but through rebuilding norms where kind rejection is normal again. A simple, "no thanks, but I appreciate it," should be socially celebrated. Respectful approaches are treated as neutral, not automatically suspicious, not automatically praised, just normal human interaction. People stop turning strangers into content. Not everything needs to be a clip. Not every awkward moment is a public trial. More third places, parks, community events, hobby groups, volunteering, sports leagues, places where people meet naturally. Because cold approaches in random spaces are hard. Warm approaches through shared context are easier and safer for everyone. Clarity becomes attractive. If you're not interested, say so kindly. If you are interested, signal clearly. Ambiguity fuels anxiety. Let's get practical. If you're a man, approach in contexts where conversation makes sense. Events, groups, mutual friends, shared hobbies. Keep it short, low pressure, easy exit. If she says no or seems uncomfortable, leave immediately and politely. Don't try to win the moment. You're offering an invitation, not negotiating a verdict. Build a social life where meeting women is a byproduct, not a mission. If you're a woman, if a guy is respectful and you're not interested, a kind no thanks costs almost nothing and changes the culture. If you are interested, don't rely on mystical hints. Make it easy. Remember, most men are not trying to be threatening, they're trying to connect. And if someone is genuinely disrespectful, you have every right to set boundaries firmly. The point is not to force outcomes, it's to rebuild a culture where trying doesn't feel dangerous. So why did men stop approaching? Not because men suddenly lost masculinity, because the environment changed. The social penalties increased, the digital consequences increased, the emotional wear increased, the reward became less predictable, and trust declined on both sides. In any system, when cost rises and payoff becomes uncertain, participation drops. That's not weakness, that's behavior adapting to incentives. And if you've been watching this and thinking, I'm not crazy, something is different, you're not crazy. You're noticing what millions of people are living. If you want the dating world to feel human again, it starts small. Be kinder in rejection. Be clearer in interest. Stop treating strangers like enemies. Stop treating dating like a marketplace of disposable people. Because the collapse isn't just fewer approaches, it's fewer moments of courage being met with grace. If this video resonated, subscribe and comment. Do you think approaching in public is dead or just evolving? Keep it respectful. I'll pin the best responses.